Yes, we're ready.
Can you hit the microphone there? I'd like to call the village board meeting for the Village of Cary for Tuesday, December 12th, 2016 to order with roll call, please.
Kozler,
Here.
Cavelli. Here. Kraus,
Here.
McAlpine. Here. Dudek,
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move to the open forum where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda.
Nobody.
Is the chief going to look for me? Thank you,
There's
sir.
nobody. I already looked.
Okay.
Oh, does she want?
Okay. Would you like to come up to the?
Okay.
Well, this is a different.
I thought it was coming to. My name's Mary Rouse. I live 421 Krenz, still there. I'd like to comment. It's my understanding that kids within a mile and a half, it might be a mile now, but it used to be a mile and a half, that they are responsible if they, if their parents don't take them to walk to school. So all the sidewalks to go to the high school or any of these other schools need to be plowed or shoveled so these kids, if they do have to walk, that they do get to, are able to without having to have to go on the road. And this would be a great opportunity for the school district, the village, and the park district to work together to get these sidewalks done along with businesses and residences. I would say that a lot of the kids that go to Three Oaks, they live down the hill, still west of St. Peter and Paul and that. Those kids have to walk to Three Oaks, and a lot of them do not have cars to take them to school. So I think this is something that the village needs to address to the residences and the businesses that, people are walking to the train. Like, let's make sure those sidewalks downtown are cleared off and, stuff like that. It's something that needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Mary.
you're welcome.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the village board on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda? All right, we'll go ahead and close open forum. Now moving to the mayor's report, I have the honor of awarding certificates of completion to our 5th graduating class of the Citizens Police Academy. So I'm going to ask the chief to help me out with this.
Again, just an overview of the Citizen Police Academy. It allows the police department the opportunity to present information to people that are interested in participating, related to a number of different topics within the police department. One is the overview of the police department's organization, a facility tour, our patrol unit overview, the hiring process, the introduction to the McHenry County criminal justice system, the McHenry County coroner's function and their overview, police dispatch and communications, use of force overview, defensive tactics, basic police tactics and scenarios, traffic enforcement and crash investigation, and law enforcement mutual aid, firearms introduction and range participation. That was an optional event, and then crime scene processing. So the current Citizen Police Academy version of the Citizen Police Academy was facilitated by Sergeant Chris Winkleman and Detective Josh Victor. We had, they did an excellent job. We had presenters that included Deputy Chief Nadenoff, Sergeant Witherow, Chris Winkleman, Sergeant Jeff Cooker, officers Susan Ellis, Detective Josh Victor, Officer Anthony Stanky, Detective Greg Rutson, and Officer Sarah Barham. And some of the outside instructors we had were Pete Sophie from Southeast Emergency Communications, Sergeant Michael Muraski from the Sheriff's Office, and Pat Keneally, who ultimately is was elected the State's Attorney in McHenry County. So I want to thank the officers that presented this. They did an excellent job. I've especially want to thank the people that participated in this, because it gives us an opportunity, especially now with some current public sentiment, to show exactly how we do our job and why we. Without further ado, I will allow the mayor to call people up and we'll present them their certificates. But the other thing is, Deputy Chief Nadenoff went to great lengths to put together a after-meeting reception. So it'll be up in the front conference room of the Village Hall after we presented these certificates.
Again, thank you very much to the police department for hosting this. This is a remarkable event. It gives our citizens a great opportunity to see what our total operation is about. They're overwhelmed when you talk to somebody that's gone through the class versus a regular citizen that evaluates our police department. They have a much better understanding of the magnitude of the amount of work that we get done on a real small staff for a community our size. And so I owe a debt of gratitude to the chief for steering us clear, keeping us safe and sound, and allowing the staff to help us get this out to the community. It's a really good opportunity for the entire community. So without further ado, I have your certificates of completion. If Scott Cleveland could come up.
Sean.
Or Sean.
Not correct.
Or Scott. Well, I looked at Scott and I saw Sean.
Oh,
Nice shirt.
I don't know.
Congratulations.
I have to look upstairs.
I'll get this one right. Ed Connolly.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks for participating. Spread the word.
Oh,
You know, the class.
Dave.
Chad Ihorn. Congratulations. Thank you for participating. Juliet Espinoza. Deborah Inciso as well. Caitlin Landhammer. Congratulations. You participated. Blanca Lizardo. Congratulations. Thank you for participating. Don't forget the chief.
Hey, what's up?
Simon Lizardo. Congratulations. Thank you for participating. Monica Mead. Kenneth Olson. Eric Ostan. And Catherine Provenzano. All right, if the new recipients of their certificates, you want to come up here and get a picture with the chief?
Yeah. He's pretty tall. I think I'm screened.
We have to scooch in a little bit more, guys. There you go.
A little bit more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. It's a beautiful one.
Save some cake.
I know. Some cake.
This is what Chris was saying. Yeah. That's all right. No, I need to get this back to the chief. So while they clear out the room.
Yeah, everybody leaves. Okay, so.
Leave over there.
Are we open? We open Friday?
All day?
Yeah, but not
Oh,
one.
you are?
Not next one.
Oh, I'd like it.
We just need like a 30-second caucus here.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 1 and 2 and 3 through 10,
4 through
or
10.
4 through 10.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Dudek?
Yes.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Cosler?
I'm going to abstain.
Chapman?
Yes.
Thank you. And I will entertain a motion to approve minutes from the December 6, 2016 Committee of the Whole Meeting minutes.
Are we going to redo those?
We're going to table.
So what are we voting on? I'm lost.
No, I just need to move in a second.
Let's move in a second, then we'll discuss it, we'll table it.
Yeah.
So moved?
Second.
I'll entertain a motion to table these till a future meeting.
So moved?
Second.
Roll call, please.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Dudek?
Yes.
Cosler?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 016-12-06, the annual real estate tax levy ordinance for the tax year 2016.
So moved.
Second.
What is it? What are we doing?
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I'll just give
Michael, did
a
you-
brief update here, Mayor. This item is, as the board knows, is coming off our committee of the whole agenda. During our committee of the whole discussion, there was some of the board members were interested in taking the new growth, and we had some board members that were interested in not having an increase to the tax levy. Ultimately, the consensus of the board was to proceed with the new growth for the village board to consider. The ordinance that is before the village board this evening is to take the new growth, which is approximately $4,000. Finance consultant Descharme is here to answer any questions that any of the village board members may have.
Questions?
Yeah, I do. You know, Michael, you weren't here earlier, and there's a little discussion, that's why the minutes are tabled. And I kind of just briefly, when you ran in, I didn't mean to, but I saw you coming in, so I was kind of talking to you a little bit about it. I just, for the record, I know we've talked about this, but can you please restate what the impact of taking new growth would be? Meaning, it increases the tax levy, but how does that affect our residents? Can you explain that to them? Because I think that there's misconception, or either I need clarification that whether that is truly increasing taxes to them, or whether it's just increasing the levy, the amount that the village can get. Can you explain that a little bit in more detail?
Well, new growth represents new properties coming on to the Village of Cary's tax rolls. I think the statement I made at the last meeting was that it would not have a negative impact on the existing residents within the community. Basically, the new properties that are being added, they are responsible for the taxes associated with their properties based on their assessed valuations.
So when you say no negative impact, does that mean monetarily, or can you
No,
clarify that?
There
or-
should be no additional tax burden
Okay.
to an existing taxpayer on the tax roll.
So in other words, if we vote for new growth, we're not voting to raise taxes on our residents.
Well,
Here's the thing. There's 6 different ways you can spin this. If you say you're raising taxes, does that mean you're raising the tax rate that is applied to each property?
Right.
Or does it mean you're raising more money because the size of the pie you're collecting from is bigger?
Right.
right.
In this case, if you're adding new growth, that means you're increasing the size of the pie from which you're collecting taxes because new properties and new improvements have been added to the community, and you're trying to keep the rate identical to the last year. So each person's paying the same share as last year. That might result in you increasing the amount of money you collect, but each person's share remains the same. That can still be characterized as a tax levy increase. But that is an incomplete statement, in my opinion. So you have no change, which means that the rate will go down because the value in the community has gone up. You have a new growth, which means the rate stays the same and you collect more money in proportion to how much more new property's been added, or you have the CPI percentage, which just increases it by 0.7%, which I understand is not part of the consideration tonight. Those are the three options, and combinations of those.
Sure.
If I could put it another way, or just to restate it, I think I took, based on the fact when we were looking at increasing the levy by 21,000, which was the new growth and the CPI. And the statement that I made at that time was, the village's equalized assessed valuation had gone up, which would lower the tax rate, and on a $200,000 value home in the community, the impact of that was like $1.70.
Right.
Okay, now that was at 21,000. $4,000, just if you wanted to attach a number to it, would be that percentage. We're talking cents to the average property owner. But in this case, those cents that I'm referring to are being paid by the new property owners that were being added to the tax rolls.
And if we don't take the new growth, then people's property tax rate goes down.
Yes, it would go down slightly. Yes, it would. Sure.
And because it's so minimal, it's not a huge impact right
Well,
now. Because it's only 4,000 growth. Whereas if we're looking at something when other new developments, economic development is coming into our community, which is going to hit us next year, for us to miss out on new growth, you only have that one opportunity to capture it.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's
That was the discussion we had before. When you're talking new property, you're talking about the future compounding of that and adding to the tax rolls as new properties are being brought on. As Adam stated, by picking up the new growth, basically, we're just leaving the tax rate the same place it was last year. And anytime you're looking at new growth, as those new properties come onto the tax rolls, we're just trying to maintain that tax rate.
Right.
But once we're able to add those new properties, the size of the village's tax levy is able to expand, which can be used for other improvements, to pay the police pension obligations that we have each year going forward, and the like.
Anyone else have any questions?
So in essence, thank you, we met for a while this afternoon going over this again, just so that there was clear clarification. The CPI, if we were to take the CPI, that would be in fact a tax increase on the rest of the taxing body.
Right, because the equalized assessed valuation that went up wouldn't completely compensate for the tax rate going up. So that would have been the increase on the $200,000 home of approximately $1.70.
And therefore, any economic development opportunity, a new building, we'll say like the Burger King, the Starbucks, the Dunkin' Donuts, this is the time when we're saying that we're letting the state or the county know that this is the money that we're taking for these particular developments. So in essence, every time you bring something new, you want to make sure that you're capturing that growth. Otherwise, it's not economic development.
When it appears on the tax rolls.
Right.
In the case of the Starbucks, the Burger King, what other one am I missing?
Dunkin'
Dunkin'
Donuts.
Donuts.
Donuts. They're not being added on the tax rolls this year. I would assume they would be added next year.
I just want to be clear on that. When they are added, they pay in regardless of what we do here tonight. I don't want people to be misled that their money's not coming to the village. And that goes back to my statement that if we don't increase the levy, then everybody else's taxes go down because we have more people paying in.
Well, the Burger King, the Dunkin' Donuts, the Starbucks are not in this valuation. These are 2016 taxes we're talking about. They won't get the tax rolls or have a tax bill they're responsible for until 2017. There is no one here that is paying any taxes on behalf of McDonald's or the Burger King, the Starbucks, and the Dunkin' Donuts.
Sorry, aren't they paying for their property tax anyway, a vacant lot?
Going along, yes.
Okay,
Somebody was. Maybe not necessarily
Sure,
them.
sure.
They weren't the property owner, but the existing property owner,
Yes.
before they were built, was paying taxes on the
Okay.
land,
All right.
yes.
I'm just, I think it can be, it's very confusing to taxpayers, I think, the whole system. And it's one of those things that, of course, we want to be in a position that we capture the proper economic growth, because in the long run, that can actually help our tax levy, can help our residents. We want to bring in as much money into our village as we can to support our services. I think it's also confusing because we look at the bill and a lot of people just assume that when they're paying property taxes, it's all going to the village, and we're only getting about 5%, whereas all the other taxing bodies are getting such a large portion of it that we just are not, we're not privy to that. We're not entitled to that. And I think it can be very confusing for the average resident with regards to what they're doing. And I'm just thinking that, I don't know, maybe I think maybe I'd like to make a motion to amend it and not take anything this year because it's so minimal.
So by not taking,
Second?
Oh, if we
now we
vote-
can talk.
If this is voted down, then we don't take anything. That's correct?
That would have to say.
No, but we have to, there has to be a motion, because this ordinance here is calling for the $4,000 increase, so we would have to amend them. But can I ask a question?
Sure you can.
The $4,000 that, so by not capturing the $4,000 this year, the implied tax burden, or the tax rate will, this won't go into effect until the 2017 because we're in the rears. So which is where people get confused, I guess I do too, is that if you're not going to capture this, then our tax rate goes down because we're not getting more money.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
So,
But please understand, just so there's not any confusion, we need to pass a tax levy tonight,
Correct.
either with the $4,000 increase for the new growth, or to pass a tax levy freezing the tax levy at where it was last year, because we need to file that by next Tuesday.
Right.
If there is no levy, there are no taxes. Period.
so on the table is a motion to amend the original motion. We're not voting on the tax levy right now. We're voting on whether to amend the original motion.
Right.
To change it to provide for no increase at all.
Is there any other comments about this?
Just one. Hello, residents. Please understand, and I had a nice discussion earlier when we were talking about adding a piece of equipment to our village to provide for additional snow plowing. And that's great, but we don't have that piece of equipment now, and that means that we have to buy it. And with all of the talk that's going around about, taxes going down and our taxes are too high, absolutely. I mean, this is my 4th year. I supported no increase on our residents. And somehow, we have to be able to provide for the budget for the residents, for the things that you want. So I just want you to know that there is, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And I want you to know that if you want something, that you need to understand that there are times when there will have to be either special assessments or there will have to be increases, but it's not now, and it's not today. And I think we're going to take advantage of the historical rates. So I'll say I will support that motion.
Any other comments on?
Yeah, I do. We had a discussion at the last meeting, and it seemed to be very clear that there were certain board members that wanted this new growth, and then there were others that didn't. And tonight I just see politics coming into play here, and I'm going to vote against this motion and hope that we vote on what was originally put before us tonight.
Any other comments? I strongly disagree with you, trustee Kraus.
I just need clarification. We're going to vote on a motion to amend it for a 0 increase.
We're going to make the motion is to change what you will vote upon from including the new growth to not including the new growth.
Okay.
If that's successful, you would vote on the levy with no increase.
Okay. Which is what-
Any other comments? Roll call?
Dudek,
So voting yes is to go along with the change in Ellen's,
Correct.
yes.
Cavelli,
Yes.
Cosler,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Kraus,
No.
McAlpine.
Yes.
Okay.
So now revert back to the original motion, which has been amended to a 0 tax increase. Do you want me to read the whole motion again? No.
Now you're voting on the tax levy ordinance with no growth, with no addition from last year.
Roll call?
Chapman,
Yes.
Cosler,
Yes.
Cavelli,
Yes.
Dudek,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving forward to the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick updates for the village board. Last Wednesday, I had the opportunity to attend the Northwest Municipal Conference meeting. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone at the dais or in this room that there's still a lot of uncertainty with the state's financial situation. The Northwest Municipal Conference and our partner communities continue to watch the situation. We probably will have some more information here on that in the spring. But right now, there continues to be concern regarding our state shared revenue and the portion that comes to the Village of Cary. The other update that I had was just related to our January 3rd meeting. We're going to be coming off of a holiday, wondering what the board's appetite is for having a shorter meeting, maybe looking at, taking the committee of the whole meeting off the agenda and just doing a village board meeting, say starting at 6 o'clock. We have a couple items that we still need to discuss with the village board, so I still want to preserve the right to have the village board meeting on that night. But is the village board open to and supportive of having a village board meeting at 6 and potentially just canceling the committee of the whole meeting?
Oh.
Like that? Yeah. Okay, that works for us.
Okay,
Got a lot of nods.
that's it. Thank you,
All
Mayor.
right, thank you. Moving to department head reports, I think Eric's got a bit of an update for us on our downtown streetscape project.
Thank you, Mayor. As you recall, on November 17th, we held a public open house meeting in order to gain feedback on the preliminary design of our downtown streetscape improvements. I have some of the display boards that have been up in Village Hall's lobby for some time here in the room now. The meeting itself was well attended. We had a very good burst of attendance of residents and business owners at the beginning and another strong burst toward the end. So we were kept busy throughout the evening. Overall feedback was, I would say, overwhelmingly positive to the improvements. The only, I would say, polarizing element of the design itself was the monument gateway feature. We proposed and showed two different options to the to the business owners and residents. One being an overhead arch, another one being a column design, kind of framing the, say, the entryway to downtown as you're coming in from Route 14. Based on a review with our landscape architect and staff, and also the feedback we received, with the cost that that arch would actually require as part of the design and the polarizing response to it, we're going to recommend that we go with the column approach for the design and then actually tweak it a bit. We've seen some good alternate examples from our landscape architect that showed some more interesting ironwork features and internal illumination that could be in sequence with some of our other elements that are in the process of being implemented in the project. So if the board is willing, we're going to direct our consultant to move forward in fleshing out a alternate design on the column approach and abandon the gateway. Other than that, though, the elements as proposed were very positively responded to, and unless the board has any other comments and elements that they wish to see amended, we'll direct our landscape architect to proceed.
At our Student Government Day, the high schoolers brought up two good suggestions. And the first one was to have a couple of water bottle stations throughout the downtown area. And I don't have the drawing up here in front of us. So this would, so people could come with their own plastic bottles or cups or containers and fill up with water as they're walking through the downtown or jogging or whatever they're doing, they're shopping. And that way it would be a very good convenience for the residents. The second was addition of Wi-Fi to several benches throughout the downtown area. And the discussion went over in an email, which Jacob, I'll send you a copy of, to the Park District, asking them to think about that as well. They have several parks, they have several bike paths that have seating beside them, and it was it's a new up and coming thing, is having Wi-Fi, so that people, when they're walking through downtown or they're sitting, they can actually hook up to a secured Wi-Fi unit and connect and be online.
Thank you. Appreciate the suggestions. We'll pass them on to our consultants and we'll get some feedback on them.
Any other comments?
I didn't have a comment on the streetscape, although I'll miss the arch. I thought the arch was kind of cool and kind of different. I do have just a comment, and maybe it's gotten to you, but I just want to ask you personally. I've talked to a lot of people who don't realize that we're going to get a new train station. And, you know, we don't have a ton of new stuff that's going on in town. That's a big improvement, an improvement that we're not paying the majority for. I would strongly encourage you, if you haven't already, to ask Metro if we could either have them put a sign up there or if we could have a sign put up on their property. I mean, you know, my own neighbors don't realize that we have a new train station coming next year, and I think that's a shame, especially since the majority of it's not funded by the residents. So we were just talking about that on a levy, and here we're getting quite a bit of money, and I don't think a lot of people realize it's happening.
Well, it's an excellent idea. I will find out the logistics with the property owner, who is actually the Union Pacific, and we'll see if we can come up with something that they'll allow us to post at the station or near the platform, perhaps. Kind of a coming soon with maybe the latest rendering of the improvement.
Because then, that kind of dovetails into what your drawings are, since it's all in the same area, and let the people know that we're not asleep at the wheel.
Sure. Thank you.
Brian, under the sign regulations, are temporary project announcement signs allowed? Like, okay.
We talked about that even last year, about doing that with one of our projects that are coming up, that it's a great way for, like you said, a coming attraction for, for our residents to get excited about what's coming on and what's happening. And, we've seen some of it with some of our developers, that whether it's Starbucks did something or Dunkin' Donuts did something, but it'd be nice for some of our other developments for the residents to know.
Yeah, will do.
Any other comments for Eric?
Looks great.
Chief, you have anything for us?
I had one more comment, though, for Public Works.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just real quick, just a compliment. You guys did a fantastic job. There was a terrible water main break. I know there's been a lot of stuff going on, but your crew needs to be commended for what a great job they did. I I was at St. Peter and Paul running a tournament on Friday night, and we got the message that all of a sudden there's no water, so I had explained to everyone that they can't wash their hands and got to be a little careful. I'm like, thank goodness it's a boys' tournament. We could put out the Germex, and they were okay with that. But your crew stayed out there, and they worked really hard and diligently to get it all done, and did a great job with it, keeping everyone informed.
Appreciate that. I'll pass that along, and I appreciate Trustee Kostler's support for the second water main break I think we had, or multiple, I said the
Yeah,
words too. It's
exactly.
a superstition. If you say it, it's going to happen. So my guys are going to kill me. But no, we appreciate the support. It was a couple rough ones and some very cold
Right.
temperatures. So
Yep.
then they went and plowed.
Yep,
So after
exactly.
that, I've got my small
Worked
plow
hard.
and tie on too, and their honor. So. But thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, no. Oh.
You should have gotten our statistical information that was presented to you at your positions prior to the meetings. As promised, and I promised that last time I presented this information, our activity increased in November, and substantially. You know, our miles traveled increased by 1,900 in the month, and also there's a significant increase in business checks and subdivision checks as compared to October. Some of the things that we have seen is we continue to see suspended, revoked driver's license, no valid driver's license, and driving while under the influence of alcohol increase over the same period in 2015. Some of the other issues that you might notice here is that there were 37 reported traffic crashes for 37, you gotta take care of them, you know, so 37 reported traffic crashes as opposed to 30 in the previous year. And we've seen an overall increase of 3% in traffic crashes year to date. Not a big increase in, again, these things can be a little bit fickle as it relates to why they happen, but we do monitor them and we do respond to them. And we try to identify those things that contribute to those traffic crashes. Some of the other things that you might see is compared to November 2015, thefts, criminal trespass to property and criminal damage to property increased slightly, but burglaries, interestingly enough, have decreased and decreased by 53% over last year during year to date, which I don't want to jinx it, just like water main break. It probably goes toward people securing their vehicles and calling us for suspicious vehicles, because we continue to see suspicious person and suspicious incidents increased to some degree over the period of year to date. The other thing that I bring your attention to is we process 134 Freedom of Information Act requests year to date, and for the month of November, we processed 5. And one of the interesting incidents that occurred last, the third Tuesday of November, when there was a suspicious incident that we responded to, and it resulted in an aggravated battery to a police officer when we were investigating the incident. So other than that, if you have any questions or comments about the statistical information that was presented, I'd be happy to address them. Sir.
Hi, Chief. I would like to get of the criminal offenses. I know that
you mean what gets reported to like the state?
No. So we have one offense here, one arrest.
Right.
So I know that there's October, which had 1 and 0. Has that now been moved to a 1? So how effective are we at clearing up those cases? This is a 1-month summary, but is there a 12-month or?
Well, year to date, you'll see that although it doesn't indicate the arrests, it indicates the reported offenses. So on the far right column, for example, if we're going to use armed robbery, didn't have any reported in November 15, none in November 16. Year to date in 2015, we had none, but we had 1 in 2016, and that was in October. So you still do see that, but you don't see the arrests. You see the incidents as they relate to what we investigated.
Okay, so just help me out here then. So for under the aggravated assault and battery, I see in 2016, we have had 12.
Correct.
All right, so how many of those 12 have been solved since January or whenever they would have happened before November?
Now, aggravated battery is an interesting, or just
Or
battery
anyone,
period,
yeah.
is because generally we arrest the party that is, responsible. So that's a relatively easy one to say that there's a high percentage of arrest or, clearance as it relates to those reported incidents.
As I assumed. And then conversely, I was wondering then about the identity theft ones, because that's something that's on everybody's mind and we hear a lot about it.
Sure, and if we look down at that last line, which is identity theft, you'll see that we've had a 7% decrease. We've had a number lately that we've been investigating, but year-to-date, we've had 41 in 2015, where the same period of time in 2016, we had 38 reported. Now, I'll also tell you that it is very unlikely to have charges initiated in those identity theft cases. They occur, but it's not very often that they do occur. It's remote, because generally, the offense occurs someplace other than here. So it's occurring at a different location where the party is coming in. The party can either report the identity theft in the jurisdiction of their residence or where it occurred. That's the way the statute reads.
Okay, so I get that part then. The issue that I just want to be able to see and visualize is these are reported, but it doesn't have a total of how many were solved over in 2006.
Yeah, and we would call it cleared.
Cleared,
because,
okay.
sometimes being solved means that the person is given restitution, they don't want to prosecute or something like that. Because arrests kind of can sometimes be a misnomer. The other part of the equation is you can make one arrest for a number of different, one offender for a number of different incidents or offenses that occurred.
Okay, and then the last one is an article that I read and sent out about policing and about an effective way of increasing the vision and the threat and possibility of getting caught is better than increasing the fine or the incarceration time. I can tell you that the Citizens Police Academy that we just granted is another great set of eyes that are going to be on our village streets. They're going to be in our towns, and they're going to be looking out for people. When's the next?
Next year, probably next summer. We
Okay.
generally have them once a year, and we won't conduct one unless there's at least 10 people enrolled. We had 12 this time, but again, we put a lot of effort into it. We put a lot of staff time into it, and we just want to make sure that we're using our time wisely as it relates to the number of people that participate.
Sure.
I agree with you, it's a good way to distribute that information, certainly in a environment that is conducive to conversation versus other rhetoric or, some type of assertions that might not be so nice if someone is arrested or if they are a victim of an incident.
Well, I'm just commending the department and your officers, and it's a great response, and I can't wait for the next one.
I think.
Thank you, Chief. Any future agenda items in discussion by the village board?
Big thank you to Nancy for handling both the Christmas parties. You did a great job for both the village staff and for both parties. You did a great job, so thank you for handling all that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's good
That's
food.
good. Could we have an update from staff on the roundabout and with the township and with the new daycare? And I don't mean tonight, but I'm just saying.
You're talking about the roundabout on Silver Lake Road?
I thought that's dead.
No, oh, no.
I can answer that now, actually. With that project, like our Three Oaks Road project, which was moved from the MYB list, so kind of the project and waiting list until the new program was set for the STP grant monies, that project also moved into the program. It is in an out year, well beyond, I think it's 2021 2021 or 2020 for that matter. But so basically it's in the program. Obviously, it's subject to funding that the township is going to be responsible for seeking. They're currently developing phase 2 engineering at this point.
Okay.
So they're proceeding with that, then they'll finish that design and then secure their other funding options in addition to the STP money that was recently put in the program.
All right. It's been a while since I heard about it.
And then the daycare, you're talking the Kids Are Kids?
Kids are kids.
Ryan, we had to hear from you tonight.
Yeah, the Kids Are Kids daycare is under construction. They have permits.
It
They
is.
started work. Actually, before the snow started flying, they had the foundation in. So they're working forward with developing the plans and envision the building being constructed over the winter months here and likely occupied prior to the fall time period before the next school year starts.
Okay.
But they're moving forward with their project. Took them a while to go through the permit process as they revised some engineering for the site. So they, mid-process, right before they were about to get a permit, they did some value engineering that revised the site plan for some cost savings on their part that require them to go back through the process again. But the permits were issued for site work October, November time period. And they've started doing the site development of the property out there.
Cucina Rustica was supposed to open in fall of 2016.
They're opening January of 2017 as their plan. They didn't want to open through the holiday season just due to that being a peak season and getting their kinks and issues worked out as a restaurant. So, and also the staff that they'd be hiring, they'd be taking away from restaurants that they currently work in that would wait until January to open. But possibly mid-January, I'd envision them opening for business.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Brian, I have one thing too, since you're up there. What about the Westlake development? What's the latest with that?
Yeah, the developer is still doing their due diligence on the project. As the board recalls, they came before the committee of the whole for conceptual discussion for the single-family detached homes. They have a contractual obligation for the property, which they're still doing their analysis of the costs to develop the site. So I envision a petition for that likely being submitted to the village first part of next year.
And that would have to go through the zoning process still, correct?
Correct.
Anything else?
That's all I have for this evening.
Thanks, Brian. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You can stick around if you want.
I didn't start. I said 15.